I now have pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency, the Ambassador of Peru, Carlos Herrera. You have the floor, sir.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you, Chairman.
Señoras y señores delegados.
Mr. Chairman, Director General, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the delegation of Peru, I should like to congratulate you on your election to the chair of this 20th session of the convention.
And
in order to achieve success, we offer our full support and cooperation. Moreover, we should like to thank the outgoing President Ambassador of Croatia, Madam Korac, for her outstanding work as in the chair of the 19th session. My delegation would also like to thank Ambassador of Uruguay, Alvaro Marsinga, for his successful management in the chair of the Executive Council between May 2014 and May 2015, as well as Francesco Azzarello, Ambassador of Italy, for his current work. My delegation endorses what was said on behalf of the NAM China. Mr. Chairman, delegation of Peru, in its first words, would like to stress the highly successful work of the OPCW as an international agency, the significant advances on destruction of chemical arsenals and the recognition such as the Nobel Prize will be a motivation for OPCW and states parties to take advantage of the moment to redouble their efforts to achieve universality of the convention and make a greater contribution to international peace and security. We welcome the recent adhesions of Myanmar and Angola to the convention, and we welcome them to this conference. At the same time, we encourage the few states which have not yet done so to start the process to join the convention as soon as possible. So from that point of view, we support the establishment of joint mechanisms between the states parties and technical secretariat to give the support necessary. We note that the reports on progress of destruction of chemical weapons by the possessor states, including abandoned chemical weapons, and reaffirm that destruction of all categories of chemical weapons must be finished as soon as possible in the terms of the convention. As member of the Executive Council, Peru has continued to follow the crucial decisions related to the elimination of the chemical weapons program in Syria. My delegation believes that this will save the Syrian people even more suffering and follows with attention the continuous conversations or dialogues of the DAT with representatives of Syria on the initial declaration. 20 months have passed since the first visit of the DAT to Syria, and to date there are still serious concerns about the precision of the initial declaration, and so we repeat our call to Syria to accelerate its efforts in coordination with the OPCW to clear up all these errors and discrepancies. Moreover, we're looking forward with great interest to receiving the report which the DG will present to the 80th session of the Executive Council. We've taken note of the Director General by which he transmits Resolution 2235 of the UN Security Council to us. This refers to setting up the gym. Moreover, my delegation welcomes the publication of 3 reports by the FFM, which concluded that incidents in Idlib may have involved the use as weapons of one or more toxic chemical substances, probably chlorine, including chlorine. And in the case of the Marea, the mission concluded we can more or less confirm that as 2 people have been exposed to sulfur mustard. Peru repeats its great concern at these conclusions and expresses once more its strongest condemnation of the use of chemical weapons. We think it necessary that the mission continue its work, and so we launch an appeal to all parties in Syria to offer cooperation, full and effective cooperation to the mission. We also wait for the final report of the mission. The full application of the Convention under Article 7 is a basic objective of the OPCW. We note with concern that only a small percentage of states parties have fully implemented the Convention. And from that we understand that many states still don't have the necessary tools to do so. It is of vital importance for trust and security. Therefore, we launch an appeal to those states parties which have not yet done so to contact the Technical Secretariat with a view to coordinating the necessary steps to implement their national implementation measures. Moreover, we support the development of impulses for states parties who have not yet done so to implement the Convention. The cooperation ought to extend to actions which allow states parties to receive assistance and protection against possible attacks or threats of use of chemical weapons and incidents involving toxic substances, as is established in Article 10. We'd like to stress the basic regional course on response to chemical warfare agents and incidents related to toxic substances, which will be held in Lima, Peru, from 7th to 11th of March 2016. Moreover, my delegation considers it of great importance that more stress is placed on international cooperation to contribute to the expansion of the chemical industry and business of trade among states parties without discrimination and under conditions of security. In a sense, the international cooperation ought to promote the peaceful use of chemistry and the free transfer and interchange of knowledge. This also implies developing other ways of cooperation, for instance, responding to terrorist attacks. Therefore, international cooperation, one of the pillars of the Convention, ought to be properly developed and reflected in the budget. We repeat our most firm condemnation of terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. At the same time, we render homage to the victims of the terrible acts of terrorism which have occurred recently in various parts of the world. We hope that states will find the way to address in effective form the threat which, of course, implies the existence of non-state actors and terrorist groups in possession of chemical weapons. Peru supports the work being done by the OPCW in this area. The coordination with other international organizations is of great importance, as well as the strengthening of assistance and cooperation programs to improve the national capacities. We welcome the designation of the Ambassador of Chile as facilitator of a sub-working group with the important task of examining what else OPCW can contribute to face hostile uses of chemical substances by non-state actors, and we'll take active part in the discussions. My delegation considers that education and outreach will play an ever more important role in the future of the OPCW and the expansion of knowledge on the peaceful uses of chemistry in prevention of re-emergence of chemical weapons. Therefore, we support the recommendation of the Executive Council adopted in the 80th session to present the draft to the Consecutive Council to present a project of an advisory body on education and outreach. This is the result of joint work of states parties and technical secretariat and will be a very useful tool. In conclusion, we'd like to repeat my country's commitment to strengthening and consolidating the application of the Convention. I'd like to ask that this be treated as an official document.